She Loves Herself with Jill Ritchie, showing you how to embrace vulnerability and unearth your power within.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of She Loves Herself, the podcast, in collaboration with the Intuitive Psychology Association. And I'm joined by my lovely partner in crime, business partner, co-founder, Sarah Gregg.
Hello.
Sarah, we're back again for another episode. These episodes are going down a storm right now. People are loving them, which is so good. And hopefully today's episode really lands, because this is something that we're both really passionate about, and we've actually learned on our own journeys. And we're still learning. We are still learning, so full transparency. But today's episode, we are talking about shattering shame and judgment through telling your own story. God, where do we even start when it comes to shame and judgment? It's massive, Sarah, right?
Yeah, it's massive. And it's massive. And as soon as you kind of like said the title, immediately kind of what came flooding back was this memory of when I was writing my first book, Find Your Flow. And really, I discovered flow and the psychology of flow at a very low point in my life, whenever I was feeling very unfulfilled, didn't really know who I was, what I wanted to do in life. My life kind of seemed to be falling apart and crumbling. And I felt so much shame around that. I felt a lot of shame about everybody else is fine and I'm not. And anyway, I was writing Find Your Flow, and I didn't want to share my personal story in Find Your Flow. So the first, second, third, fourth, fifth drafts up until close to the final draft all involved characters and stories that were really about my own personal journey. Um, that I used to disguise my personal journey, because it made me feel super safe to be like, let's talk about Anna and how she does blah, blah, blah. And I was getting really close to the end of Find Your Flow. And I was very confident in the psychology and the research and, how the journal system, mapped into the psychology of flow, but something was niggling me about the book. And I ended up having a call with this wonderful human being, Francis, who has been like my spiritual guide and mentor over the past 7 years. And I kind of felt this like little niggling call to talk with her, because I couldn't quite place my finger on what what was wrong with the book. And I spoke to her, and she said, you have been given this book to tell your story. And she didn't know that I put these characters in it. Um, she said, that's just what I feel like I need to tell you. And I knew instantly, I think I knew anyway what I needed to do. And so for the final drafts, I made it about me. And I wrote that actually it wasn't Anna who felt that, or, Janet, or whatever I called them. I can't remember. I actually do. I think I used my friends' names because I thought it would be a nice little tribute, to kind of like weave in my friends' names. I don't know why I thought that. That's a silly. Anyway, but I
Anyone
did
but
that.
yourself.
Anyone but
Anyone but
myself,
yourself.
anyone but me, and dress it up as if it's a gift to my friends, and like, look, here's a little secret clue. And I actually I deleted all of that, and I wrote it from my personal perspective. And I felt sick. I remember the day that it was published, and it went, no, it went for pre-published and it went for reviews. The first review was a shocker. I was in this little kind of bar in Copenhagen, and I saw it like ping through, and it was like I couldn't even get past the first page because it was so terrible. And like I remember feeling like physically sick. It was like a 2-star review, and I was like, I shouldn't have done that. Like I shouldn't have written about myself. And I really wanted to pay the publisher to retract all of it. And actually subsequently the reviews were very, very good. But I needed that. Like, and actually it enabled me to own my story, um, and to own that people will judge, and to own my shame around not feeling good, and to own my shame about the shame that I had, that feels like a lifetime ago that I felt like that. But I had so much shame that like I didn't feel great about life. I felt like I was a failure because of that.
I was going to say, especially, right, you're a psychologist, and I bet you there's this like almost expectation that you
Yeah,
put together. Like,
yeah.
that, right? I think, until you do the work that we do, people do have that, put that on, like that
A hundred
expectation.
percent. Like I work in this industry, like I've done, this work for a long time. And I was like, oh my God, people are going to think like professionally I'm a failure, I'm a fraud because like I was as a business coach, like I've been in coaching for a very long time in like a professional and, in a corporate environment as well. I was like, people are going to
To
think
be
like,
hired
oh
again.
yeah, I'll never that's it. It's career suicide. Like this, and no one will ever, or that I'd lied because I was quite private, like during that time of my life. I didn't openly share with people. I kept it like I was a closed book in a lot of ways. So then it was like, well, my friends and family are going to read this, and I didn't really tell them that I felt this. And there was so much emotion around that because I did not want to be seen. Well, I did want to be seen, but I wanted people to
A
see the
version of
version
you.
that I wanted to see. I wanted them to see professional Sarah, smart Sarah, got her shit together, Sarah. I didn't want them to see the other part that was like, I don't know what's happening with my life, but I hate it. Like, no,
No,
no, don't look at
or
that
that
part.
thing really
Don't
hurt
look
me
at that
back in the
part.
day. I was really hurt by that. Because
Yeah.
like, I love that you shared that, Sarah. And I really see it. I mean, you and I have known each other, what, a good 6 years now. But I've even seen more of you sharing the more vulnerable side of you. And I think when you do the work that we do, you can't not. You
Yeah.
can't avoid it. It's
Well, you
coming for
feel
you.
safe too as well. Like that's the difference. You feel safe too because you're not frightened of it. It's like before I was like, oh, if I share that, oh, it's like the world will crumble. Like the worst thing someone could have said to me was like, to pass a judgment or to be like, I hate pity. Like God, it makes my skin crawl. Do I hate anybody feeling sorry for me? And that's shadow stuff for sure. But now I'm like, I feel comfortable with it. So I feel safe to share it because I
Yeah.
feel safe. I feel safe in my shame. It's
I
okay. It's
love
like,
it. I think you've got to feel safe in it, right? And the only way is for you to do it. So it doesn't matter how many people tell you it's okay, but you've got to feel okay with that. The minute you own your judgment, your shame, whatever that is, and I mean the minute you own it, heal it, it doesn't touch the sides really what anyone else says. I mean, it can sting a little bit, right? I'm not going to
yeah,
say you're going to be impacted, but you're like, I know who I am. And so what now what? Like that's saying we use it in IP a lot. So what now what? Like, I think the biggest thing that people struggle with shame is that how the world perceives them, how they're going to be judged, what people think of them. Because especially like there's the real you and then there's the version that everyone else sees, and we all have it. I don't care what anyone
hmm
says. I would say I'm pretty transparent. I think people, you usually get me the same most of the time, but there's also this there's this version of me that people don't see.
hmm
Like who and people would say I'm an open book, and I am. I'm also really private,
yeah,
which people wouldn't believe because I'm so like I'm very transparent, but there's also things that I keep close to myself that I don't share with people. And that's not because of shame around it. I just think there's some things, and you've said this before, that you're like, I don't need to share every
yeah,
single. And that
yeah.
doesn't mean that you're not authentic and that you're not being like you're not vulnerable. But
Of
I think it doesn't mean that. It doesn't. But I do think like when you feel shame, when you tell your story and you feel safe, even if it's with a stranger, um, it dissolves the shame and it just takes it away. And because when you think about shame, it's such a low feeling. It's like dog turd. It's like, oh my God, it's the worst. If people really
it's
knew
the
me,
worst.
if they knew me, they would hate me and I would have no friends and my family would disown me. And we catastrophize it, right? We're like, it's the worst thing ever because shame can feel so big and so dark. And all shame underneath it, we have this technique in IPA called unlayering. And when we go underneath the layers, like what's underneath, and we go to shame and we allow the client to sit with that emotion of shame rather than bypassing it, rather than just, it's love, it's love. We allow the client to really feel, okay, sit with it and breathe through it and really feel what needs to be felt without attaching a story, a narrative to it. Feel it in its entirety and then go underneath it and then go underneath it again. And underneath all of it is love. Fear, like, it's love in disguise, right? It's underneath love. It's when we felt fragmented and we didn't conform, or we did something that didn't meet the standards of other people or how life is supposed to be lived. And we did something and we went against the rules, or we didn't conform. And actually, my God, I feel for shame, because it feels so heavy. It is just crying out for love. It is crying out to be seen, heard, understood, and held. And actually, the only person that can hold your shame is no one outside of you, really. It's you. Someone can hold a space for you to feel safe enough to say, I feel shame. This is what I feel shame for. And to say it, and for someone to say, it's okay. You're loved. And actually, it's the most healing thing that can happen. And you don't always need someone to do that for you. In fact, you can do it for yourself and be able to bring in the highest version of yourself, because shame is that lowest version of yourself, right? That feels so, so low. But when you bring in the highest, most loving, unconditionally loving version of yourself, when you can connect to that, imagine it, feel it, see it as a color, as an energy, and allow it to sit with shame and just hold it in unconditional love. Allow it to dissolve. It's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's an energy. And actually, when you do that, you have this acceptance of, it's okay. I know who I am. I acted out of fear. I acted out of, I didn't know any better. I was in a place where I wasn't fully conscious, and I said this thing or I did this thing. But actually, there's innocence there. There's innocence there. You're frozen in time, and usually it's childhood, and we lock it in and we take it with us and we run with it and we create a narrative of how the world is, and our map of the world is very different. So we act out of fear. We act out of uncertainty and unsafety. Like, we don't feel safe, so we act in this way. And actually, when you can hold that space for yourself and allow it to dissolve and allow it to be like, grieve, allow the tears to flow, allow the emotion to come, like, fully feel it in your body, somatically move it through. When you can do that, and then you can speak and you can share that and say, like, this thing I did, oh my goodness, so many people in the world are waiting for you to tell your story, because what it does, it gives them permission to do the same. It gives them permission to be like, oh my God, me too. Oh, wow. I feel seen for the first time. I feel like everyone loves someone that's vulnerable, Sarah, but no one wants to be vulnerable.
I know, because shame's role is to keep us silent and separate. Like, that's what it does, silent and separate. Like, but actually, when you share it, like, whatever that is, share it. And like you said, share whatever feels relevant for you and whatever feels safe for you. It opens up connection. It opens up authenticity. And I think if we don't, I think so many of us, and we continually go through the hurdles of, like, shame and judgment as well, new levels, new devils, like, it's that bit, like, you're always facing different bits, but so many people are held back, can be held back. I've been held back, definitely, by fear of shame and fear of judgment. It's been safer to be silent and to keep myself small and, contort and twist myself into what the world needed me to be, and to run away from those, maybe mistakes that I've made, things that I regret, shame that I felt around past or feelings or whatever it is. And actually, oh my goodness, like, the world needs it. The world needs you. The minute that you share it, I guarantee, I mean, Find Your Flow came out, I started then to kind of, do more vulnerable podcasts, more vulnerable shares. That's continually kind of like opened up like more and more on different levels for me. Um, and overwhelmingly, the response was connection of people going, I feel exactly the same, and I couldn't give a voice to those feelings. Or that really helped me because I felt like that was me, and I understand myself. And we are all human and we're all going through this shared experience, and no one is perfect. No one makes like perfect choices all the time, feels perfect all of the time. Like shattering that shame and judgment by owning your story is like so liberating. And I think so many people, when they come to train with us, at the Intuitive Psychology Association, one of the big hurdles that they have to overcome before they sign up, during their training, sometimes after their training, is the judgments that they feel like they're going to receive because they're bringing their work out into the world. And actually, I think often shame and authenticity go hand in hand because, when we're really being true to our authentic selves, we can feel, oh, is this good? How am I going to be judged? Like, oh, I don't know if this is like, I don't want to offend anybody. I feel self-conscious about being a coach, whatever that is. But the ripple effect that our coaches have, whenever they tell their stories, like our current cohort are about to do their group facilitation assignment, which is on the power of vulnerability, where we encourage them to share their stories and really embody that piece, so that they can go out to groups and do it. And we hold them in a very safe environment to do that. And the transformational change that you see in those students at that point, when they sit there, stand there, and they share like who they
Who they
are and what they're here for. It's so unbelievably powerful. And I wish that I had have had that space. Like I wish someone had have shown me, in that kind of like professional but also personal capacity, that it was safe for me to share my story, and actually it would really, really empower others and it would help others. Um, because I think so many people, like I said, I don't discount myself from it, but you hold yourself back because you think, who am I to do that? And what will other people think of me? Oh, I'm in HR and now I'm going to be an intuitive psychology coach. How does that work? Or I'm in a senior leadership role and now I'm going to, change and be an intuitive psych. Well, what will my friends say? And you run all of those like rhetorics and stuff through your head. And actually, what if you just shared that? Like, what if you just went, this is who I
Yeah.
am and this is what I want to do? Like,
Yeah.
you'll be surprised. Most people go, good on you. That's amazing. Intuitive
I want
psychology
to do
coaching.
that.
What's that? That's so interesting. Tell me more. Like,
And
it's,
people want to take that leap. And actually, by you doing it, being the first person sometimes to do it inspires so many other people. And I think,
yeah,
like you're saying about the fear of, being judged, and almost sometimes in that professional, like it's not professional, it's not professional, it's not professional, especially in corporate, right? You're all, it's not very professional.
yeah,
I always struggled with that because I always felt like my natural go-to was just to speak the truth and just to say it. So that was always easier for me. But then when I was in corporate, I was told, don't do that. Don't do that. And I used to be like, why?
yeah. I love that. I really love that because I was the opposite. I felt really safe in corporate because I didn't have to do that. And then when I came out the other side, it was like, what do you mean I've got to like speak my truth? And even like personally, like I don't know about you, but whenever, I first set up my business, I was like, do I have to change personally as well? Like now that I do this professionally as a job, are people going to expect me to be, have like my life completely like figured out and be this shining kind of example? Like, do I get to still be Sarah? Like, it was a real identity crisis for me whenever, I moved from kind of corporate into this more, um, self-employment, like running my own business route. And especially when you have a personal brand, that's tied up in a professional capacity like we did, it took me a while to figure out like I could be both at the same time, and that I didn't have to change who I was. Like finding your feet in that space and navigating judgment, around that is kind of an interesting place to be. I don't know if you find that.
Definitely, Sarah. I think for me, I was probably a bit of a rebel. So I couldn't not. And I remember coming out of corporate thinking, nah, I'm not ever going to filter like who I am. So I probably went the opposite way and like I'm me all the time. And I remember my sister would message me and go like, put some makeup on, you're on that Instagram and your hair's a riot. I still do that, Sarah. So you know what? I vowed not to filter who I was because I thought I'm sick of wearing masks. I am sick
Hmm.
of it. When I went into corporate never wearing a mask and I came out of corporate wearing about 6 or 7 and I didn't know who I was. And I thought I am not doing this because it really impacted my mental health
Yeah.
because I felt like I didn't know who I was and I lost the Jill that was really confident and would just like be her fun self and just say things and not be embarrassed to say, oh, I don't understand that. Um,
Yeah.
what that means. Like I used to say that and never be embarrassed. Like my truth, well, I never embarrassed by it, but then I was made to feel embarrassed. So I
Hmm.
would like not speak in meetings and think, oh, I better not, it's not very professional. I need to know it all. And who knows everything anyway? I should be the dumbest person in the room. But see, when I came out, I actually shared stories of being a mum and navigating like the kids and like trying to please my boss and just contorting and conforming. Like you use that a lot,
Hmm.
then ended up feeling like the shittest mum in the world and the guilt and shame I felt for that because I put work before the kids because I
Yeah.
wanted to impress my boss who couldn't give an absolute shit about me and for a company that would like cut my legs off as quick as look at me, they didn't care. And I felt shame that I'd actually really chosen attachment over authenticity because I knew who I was going into that, but I came out not knowing who I was. So when I started coaching, I was like, I ain't doing that. I am not doing that. I'm just going to be me. And I think people have tried to work with me in the past, like agencies and stuff, and they find it quite challenging because they'll say, like, be your brand. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I'm just me. But you know what, Sarah? It works for me. And I love, in fact, the IPA as an association and a company because it feels it's part of who we are. It's
Hmm.
us, but there's also a slight degree of separation in terms of the Jill.
Yeah.
So I still get to be fun and playful on the Just Jill brand and the podcast, but I still get to have that fun, like, oh, badass,
Yeah.
side. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like business owner and like entrepreneur and creating this incredible company with you. And it's so playful and fun. And yeah, I just think the authenticity piece and the shame piece, I've had to navigate so much of my own stuff
Mm.
along the way. And I've worked with my coach, you mentioned your lady Francis, I've had Laura, she's been on the podcast a couple of times. And she really helped me just to know that you can't be anything other than you. And when
Yeah.
you're trying to be, it feels like you're suffocating. It feels like you're so out of integrity, you're so out of alignment. And actually, it's so freeing when you get to be you and you stop worrying about judgment. But there is work to do to get there. You can't just say, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to wake up tomorrow and I'm just going to not be bothered by people that judge me. I'm just
Yeah.
going to tomorrow and be non-attached. You have to go through the journey. Unfortunately, like I'd love to tell you it was as easy as just rubbing it out and starting again, because you have to unlearn what you've learned
You
that hasn't served you.
you really do, and you've got to tune in, like, to what's right for you. And if you're listen to this, whether you're a coach, thinking about being a coach or not a coach at all, you'll find relevance in this, I'm sure. I think kind of often when you're going on that journey, the temptation can be to look at what other people are doing, so look at other people's messaging, what other people are posting, how are they living their life, what's accepted, what's not accepted, and sort of like scour that external world for cues. And actually, it's just about you being you, and that will look different for everybody. How we kind of share our messages are differently but equally authentically aligned to like
Yeah,
who we are. We don't try to be the other person. It's like, I have my way, you have your way. They beautifully kind of like synergize and complement each other. And it's about you finding your voice. Like, what does that look like for you? Um, and knowing that when you're acting and when you're sharing your message and you're sharing your story, like you used this phrase before, like in this episode, like it's from that place of non-attachment. It's like whoever it lands and whoever it reaches, even if that's just one person, that's enough. Even if it's nobody and it just helps you, that's great. Like, you can't be attached, to it. When you share from that place of like, this is me and this is my truth, it's so powerful for you on every level. But don't filter it, and always check in. Like, for me, I'm always on that journey of checking in. Like, am I filtering myself right now, or am I not? Like, am I trying to be vulnerable, in order to get a like? Because that's also not an authenticity. Am I ready to share that part of me? Or actually, does that get to stay with me a little bit longer until it feels safe to be shared? Because you don't have to give all parts of you until you're ready. Like, so for each person, that shame and judgment will look different. But my goodness, don't live your life carrying that heavy load and that baggage with you, because most people don't care. Most people aren't looking at you.
She Loves Herself with Jill Ritchie.
Hey everyone, I am quickly interrupting this episode to tell you how you can win a £10,000 giveaway with the Intuitive Psychology Association and She Loves Herself podcast. To celebrate season 10X, we are giving away a fully funded place training with the Intuitive Psychology Association this October, which means your fees are fully funded on us. So if you have ever thought about training with the Intuitive Psychology Association, if you would like to up level, upskill and become an intuitive psychology coach with us, which means you are fully accredited to the top level of coaching, then this is the competition for you. All you need to do is make sure that you head over to Instagram to follow both She Loves Herself, the podcast, and the Intuitive Psychology Association. You need to like the post, you need to tag 2 of your friends and share it across your social media platform. If you would like 10 additional entries, so 10 times the opportunity to win this prize, all you need to do is leave a 5-star review on this episode. Good luck.
Like, do you
And there
know?
will be a few that
Yeah,
gossip.
there will be.
Talk. I mean, I've had it, like I've been trolled before, but do you know what?
Yeah.
You know, probably the biggest one I got was when I went to Bali and I was trolled. And it was a lot. But
It was
actually,
a lot.
my first reaction to that was, I don't care. Like, do
Hmm.
you know why? Because I went to Bali from a place of my authenticity. I went there to navigate my way of navigating grief. And I would not have done that at home. Logically, it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to anyone in my family. But I honored my truth and I did that. So when I did that and people criticized me, when people criticized me for that, it didn't touch the sides. It bothered me slightly when people were messaging family.
Yeah.
That bothers me more. But and saying that the personal attacks on me didn't, because I thought, I'm okay with me.
Yeah.
Like someone said, that's terrible. You're a terrible mom, leaving your kids for 3 weeks. You should be using the money to go to Florida, take them to Florida.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was laughing. I'm like, my kids are always on holiday. My kids are loved. And actually, them seeing their mum really lean into her truth as a woman, as a mum, will make them better men,
Yeah.
I hope. And I think that I laughed because I thought that it genuinely didn't touch the sides. And if I had, say I had done something that was not in authenticity for myself and I'd been criticised, it probably would have hit more. And I
Yes.
think
Yes.
when you are leaning into your truth and you've got to be okay with it. When people criticize you, I genuinely mean this. When you're really in it, it doesn't touch the side so much. When it hurts is when there's a little bit of truth there. Like
Hmm.
when it hurts more, you're like, oh God, it's when it's truth, or when you've done something to please other people and people have criticized you for it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
That's
oh
exactly
wait,
it.
I've done everything that they tell me I should do, and now they're all hating on me, or they're criticizing me. That's because you're not being you. And like, be okay with all of you and owning all parts of yourself. Like, people will like it, people won't like it, but who cares? See the ones that don't like it. That's okay, good. Because we saw something online today where it was quite a bold statement. She said, let the trash take out itself. It's bold and it's a little bit cheeky, right? However, I did laugh because I thought, let people just leave. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
nicer
Like,
way to let the trash take out itself, but let those ones leave, because the more you step into your authenticity, and if you share parts of you and people turn away from your shame, let them go.
yeah,
Let them go, because you would surely rather be like not liked for being a false version of you, and loved for being like your most authentic self.
100%. Like when you're talking, it reminds me of I did this keynote once, and it was to this group of people, and there was one guy in the audience, and I was sharing my personal story, and like quite emotional, open and vulnerable, and the audience are kind of connecting, and then I just clock this one guy, and he's kind of like in the center aisle, like over to the left, and he is just staring at me with the most uninterested look, like, and he ends up like doodling, and the whole time I'm like, oh my God, like this guy is hating this. He hates every single moment. And I can tell, and it bleeds out from his energy. And I was like, just shows you the shift. I remember in my head, it's quite hard when you're mid-flow talking to be like, that's okay. He doesn't have to get it. Like, he doesn't
Yeah.
have to get it. And it was fine. And like, I remember, like, it sounds really weird, but secretly being like, I'm all right with this, mate. Like, if you don't get this, I'm cool with it. And I went down, and he had on his notepad, and he just drew. It was coming up to like their lunch break, and he was obviously hankering after a glass of wine. And he just drawn a massive wine glass that I'd been pouring my heart out, like just on a big bit of paper.
But it's
And you know what? I took a photo of it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It didn't touch the sides because I had given my all in that keynote. I had brought my full self. I was speaking my truth. And this one guy, like, I think it was probably the worst afternoon of his life. Like, he just didn't enjoy it. But I was fine with it. I was like, not everybody gets it. And that's okay. Like, my story wasn't for
trash
him.
take out itself.
Yeah, it's
You're
totally
good. You
fine.
don't have to filter or clear it out. You just, it moves away, and actually
Yeah.
creates space for people that are aligned. So right now in your life and your business, start leaning into sharing parts of yourself that
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's okay to feel a little bit unsafe, a little bit triggered by it. If it's a full body no, then don't do it. But if you're like, actually, I'm scared to do this, but I think it would set me free,
Yeah.
think it would actually call in potentially more people that are more aligned to me, then please do it. Do it, because it will. And people might unfollow you, but that's okay, because they're not your people anyway. If you, by you being you and expressing your full authentic self, makes people leave, then adios. Bye
Yeah.
bye. Say bye
Yeah,
bye.
exactly. There's lots of people in this. There's lots of movies that I don't like. There's podcasts that I don't float my boat. I don't hate them, but like, there's musical artists you couldn't even pay
You
me to
lose
go and
sleep over
see.
that.
That's all right. And people are allowed to not like something. They're allowed to not read. It's not personal. It's just personal preference. It's their personal preference. Like, that is fine. But stand in your authority. Stand in who you are. If you're going out to be liked and loved by everybody, I mean, just like wrap up your authenticity and throw it out the window, because it cannot happen. But if you're there to be you, if you're there to speak to the people who you're meant to speak with, who you're meant to help with, then stand in it and like let the other stuff wash over you. It's hard, it's challenging, but oh my goodness, like you said, when you do it from that place of authenticity, it's all right. Like, you do feel safe because you're just being you. And what a gift. I'd rather do that all day, every day, and have, some guy draw a bloody massive wine glass and give me the daggers, for a full kind of like keynote session, than I would stand up and like act like a performing monkey to please him. I'm
And
not
he's
there
not
for
even
that.
going to buy from you anyway. You know what I mean? You never hear from them again. I love this, and I hope that as a listener that you've resonated with this and got something from it. And again, what I'm going to do is drop the link to our future self visualization. It's a free 10-minute IPA technique, which really gets you into your body and gets you into your authentic future self. because a lot of the time, anytime we run this, and we've done it at multiple workshops and things, Sarah, people will say to us, oh my goodness, when I did that, I thought I was going to go into here, and I've went completely different. You've went to your authenticity. You've not went to the shiny or what your head thinks you should do, what the media think you should do. You've actually gone into your heart, you've gone into your authenticity, your essence, and it's taken you there. So it's a really powerful, it's free, it's 10 minutes. I'm going to drop the link. So please click on that, enjoy it, let us know what you think. I am loving these episodes, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me again this week.
Thank you.